National Technology Day is celebrated every year on May 11 to highlight the achievements of our engineers and scientists in the field of science and technology. This day marks the anniversary of Pokhran nuclear testing of 1998. So the theme of this year National Technology Day is integrated approach in science and technology for sustainable future. So the key objective of this theme is to promote the development of technology in various fields. Today, emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, 5G, IoT, and then 3D printing, quantum computing, robotics are using this power of innovation to improve our life. And it is very important to understand these technologies. So today, to celebrate this day, we have organized a special talk on emerging trends in artificial intelligence. The talk will focus on understanding artificial intelligence and latest technology developments in the field of AI. I am extremely delighted to let you all know that today we have with us Dr. Nilima Jairath, Director General Science City, Jesh Grover, Director Science City. I very heartily welcome you all to this event. Now, before I request Dr. Nihiti, she was Executive Director in Punjab State Council for Science and Technology. She is also the founder, member secretary, Punjab Bar District Board and Punjab State Innovation Council. So, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ritesh. I hope all of you can hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good afternoon, Madam Dosanjh, all my colleagues and all the students and teachers who are here, who have joined us today at this event of National Technology Day. As has just now been told by Mr. Ritesh Pathak, this is a very special day for all scientists and engineers, because on this day we actually highlight the achievements of scientists and engineers. And as just now he told that we would be discussing some very latest technologies. So I would like to bring out that there are two buzzwords these days. One is artificial intelligence and the second is machine learning. So students, you would have, some of you at least would have read books written by H.G. Wells. He was a very famous science fiction writer. And in his writings, in his novels, he has discussed about driverless cars and transportation from one area to another area, etc. Also, some of the younger ones, if you have seen, there was a very interesting film of Ajay Devgan, which was called as Tarzan the Wonder Car. And in Tarzan the Wonder Car, it was a driverless cars. So I remember my children were very small at that time and they had real fun watching the film because they felt that how can a car move on its own? But today, if you go to many of the developed countries, you would know, and you would have read it all over, that we have driverless cars now. There are a lot of questions associated to it, but these cars are absolutely safe and you can travel in them. And in some cities, at least in the US, I know, they have actually started driverless cars. Now, how can this happen? Without a driver, how can a car maneuver its way? You just have to punch in the Google map into it. You just have to punch in your destination and the car will take you there. Today also, we use a lot of Google map to reach to our destination, but then we drive the car. But in this case, the car can sense it, what is coming from the front, what is coming from the side, what should be the speed of the car, when should braking be applied, and all those things. So these are pretty safe vehicles. Now, how does that happen? That happens because of artificial intelligence. So the question is, what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence basically helps machines to simulate human behavior. And machine learning allows these machines to to learn from past data without additional programming. This is the simplest definition. I'm sure Madam Dosanjh has got some very complex definitions of artificial intelligence and machine learning. I have made it very, very simple for the layman. At least that is how I understand it. Now, you would see so many examples around you. Every day, we are on Google or we are on Facebook. So if we are on Facebook and we stop at one place, or if you go to Amazon and you try to find out something for you, maybe you want to buy some shoes, and you visit a site for shoes. You don't even buy them. You just look at them. You just look at the price. And for 10, 15, 20 days or a month, every time you open Google, whatever platform you open, you will get advertisements of shoes only. So all this is data which is being generated through artificial intelligence, so this is where artificial intelligence is being used. Now, all these new computers which are coming, there is a Google Assist. For example, Cortana is there in many computers. Then all of you would have heard about the Echo Dot, Alexa. So what do you do with Alexa? The first Alexa which came was, it could just play songs for you or give you the time. Now Alexa can do a lot of things for you. You would have seen the recent advertisement by Deepika Padukone about an AC, which she says, Alexa, switch on the AC. So Alexa can do things like this also. So all this is dependent upon these super specialized technologies, which is making our life very simple, but probably very complex as well. So it is because of these technologies that we keep on getting recommendations on social media. It is because of these technologies that Netflix can tell us what pictures. Netflix just watches what kind of pictures you watch. And every time you will open it, they'll give you suggestions about the type of pictures which Netflix believes or Netflix has analyzed that you would like to watch. So this is the impact on our lives, but the most important impact of these technologies is on our economy, on the business. That is how businesses design their advertisements. And as of now, the business in artificial intelligence, there are a lot of startups coming. In 2014, I was looking at Bloomberg data. Bloomberg is a magazine which gives a lot of economic data. As per that data, in 2014, $300 million was being spent on artificial intelligence startups, was being invested in these startups by angel investors, which actually turns out to be 2,100 crore of rupees. In about 6-7 years, this figure has increased 3 times. So more than 6,000 crore rupees are now being invested world over in techniques like artificial intelligence. So it's important that you as students know about these techniques, know the potential of these techniques. And that is why today we have with us a very, very learned and a very, very senior expert in artificial intelligence. She's heading the artificial intelligence section at CDAC at Mohali. A very warm welcome to you, Madam Sonia Dosanjh. Thank you for agreeing to come to our platform and speak to our students. I'm sure you have got some very interesting examples to give to them, and I'm sure they love those examples a lot.
Thank you.
So I would not like to come between you and a very, very interesting talk from Madam Dosanjh. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined our platform here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Before I invite Ma'am Sonia Ma'am to begin today's session, I am privileged to share her brief profile. So, Ma'am Sonia is Joint Director and Head of the Artificial Intelligence and Analytics Department at CTech Mohali. She has more than 23 years of work experience. She did her BE in Electronics and Electrical Communication from Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh, and was a gold medalist. She completed her Master's in Technology from Punjab Technical University in Electronics and Communication. She has worked for more than 10 years in Electronics and Immediate Department in CTech Mohali. She is actively involved in developing state-of-art artificial intelligence solutions in the field of healthcare and agriculture. So, over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ritesh. First of all, a very good afternoon to all present, especially Dr. Neelam Jairath, DG Science City and Director of Science City. In fact, Technology Day is celebrated and the significance is so much now. And I thank Pushpa Gujral Science City for picking up such a relevant theme of emerging trends in artificial intelligence. So without taking much time, I'll start with my presentation, if you permit me to do so.
Please, ma'am.
Thank you. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think ma'am has given a very appropriate definition of what artificial intelligence is and explained to everyone in very simple terms of what AI is all about. So AI is nothing but when you want the machines to think like humans, and are we able to really do it? So that is the entire concept of AI. So before we delve into exactly and see the trends and what is the technology, state-of-the-art technology in the times today, so talking about slightly on the history part, it all started with a mathematician called Alan Turing, who asked a simple question: can machines think? So at that time, machines were just mechanical devices. They were not programmed to, think. So he just posed this question, and how did this question come into being was, so during the World War II, he was able to, decode a Nazi inscription machine, which was known as Enigma, and he helped the Allied forces to actually win the World War II. So that is how Alan Turing changed the history. And from there, he thought of this question: can machines really think? So if you look at the Turing's paper of computing machinery and intelligence that came out in 1950, and subsequently the Turing Test, he established the fundamental goal and what vision AI is going to put forward. So at its core, artificial intelligence is nothing but it's a branch of computer science that aims to answer the Turing's question in a very affirmative way. So it's an endeavor to replicate or simulate human intelligence in machines. So ma'am has given you very relevant, examples of what AI, state-of-the-art AI is today, and how AI has taken over our lives as well. I mean, we are so dependent on the Google Maps. Whenever we want to go out now, we don't need to ask for directions to any person. And how the phones have so many more applications of AI. I mean, if you pick up your iPhone and it recognizes your face, and then it opens up or it unlocks, and it recognizes your voice also. So those are very relevant applications of AI that we are using now, and we are so used to it that we don't even think what is the science behind it, or what is the technology and how is it able to recognize your face. So for a machine, it is just an array of pixels, a two-dimensional array of pixels, a photograph. So how is it able to recognize your features? Because you are unique. So everyone is unique. Everyone's face is unique. So what is it that it is able to read from your face and identify each and every person? So what AI is, it is nothing but, as I said, a study of computer systems that attempt to model and imitate the intelligence of a human. So whenever you test an AI program, it's known as the Turing Test. It's named after Alan Turing, the founder of AI. Basically, when you pose a question to a machine, and if the machine is also responding, and similarly, the human is also responding to the same question, the human is not able to make out whether the answer has come out from a machine or a human. So that is the Turing test all about. So when that kind of ability of a machine comes out, where you cannot simply make out between a machine or a human, that is what AI is all about. And that is the aim of AI going forward. So why, if since it started from 1950 and it's been there for such a long time, why is AI so different now? It's different. Why? Because everything has been digitalized. Your phones, your internet access, you are doing so much more, your mails, your Google searches, and so on and so forth. Whatever you're doing, it is such beautifully integrated into the digital system that all the environment outside you is gathering those data points, it's storing at a central place, and we are generating so much of data using our devices that now we are able to actually gather so much of data and do some analysis and see if we can come out with some certain patterns. We can use this data to make the machines learn from that data. So when you talk about big data is nothing but it is the volume of data that we are generating, we are storing, and now the machines are so intelligent, the machines are much more powerful with supercomputers coming in, that you are able to analyze and come out with novel algorithms, and the output that those algorithms gives is in no time. So like for example, when you use Google Maps, it gives you real-time data of whether that particular route is congested. So it will give you certain markings. So that means it is able to gather the data of the road conditions in real time, do some kind of analysis as to the number of people using Google Maps on probably that road, and come out with a certain figure and say, yes, this is more congested, maybe you need to go to an alternate route. And based on the alternate route, it also calculates the expected time of arrival. So there are numerous applications of AI in today's world. And now we're going to see what AI promises to do in the future also. So in my subsequent slides, I will explain some of the things where the research of AI is going forward. So before we delve into that, let us also understand some very relevant terms of AI, which is known as a narrow AI, a general AI, and a super intelligent systems, which is artificial super intelligence. So the first is narrow AI. It is programmed to only perform a single task. Like for example, Google Maps only. It is performed to do a single task of calculating the route, basically, and an optimal route for a person to reach in minimum time. So that scope of Google Maps is very limited. So when the context is limited, that means it is performing only a single task. That is known as a narrow AI. Then you have the artificial general intelligence, AGI, and where we are right now, it is a system that has certain cognitive abilities. That means it is able to find solutions in unfamiliar tasks as it come across. Basically, it is taking a multidisciplinary approach, maybe one or two things clubbed together, and that is how it is come out with artificial general intelligence. And then you have the super intelligence, what we are aiming at around about 2050, is where the machines and the computers are going to surpass the humans and the machines, and they would be able to exactly mimic human thoughts, and maybe in a better way. So it basically refers to ASI refers to a situation where the cognitive ability of the machines will be superior to that of humans. And so what are the disruptive technologies of today where AI is also impacting them? One of them is the blockchain technology, the drones, as everyone understands. The government has opened up the drone policy in a big way. So you're going to see multiple applications of drones where AI will be used. Then you have Internet of Things, like ma'am gave you an example of EcoDot or Alexa. Then you have robotic applications where at the back end only, whatever the robot senses, like an autonomous self-driving car, that is also a robot. So it is able to sense the environment and decide accordingly what has to be done. Then you have 3D printers, the virtual reality, which takes you in an entirely different way. And virtual reality is now coming up in a really big way where you are one can explain the dynamics of science so beautifully. I think Pushpa Gujral Science City is having such a based on virtual reality number of technologies to showcase, and the same goes for augmented reality. So when we talk about AI, as I said, why it is so relevant, because of the amount of data that we are gathering and analyzing. So more the data, the better it is, and the better the algorithms are able to learn from that data. When you had a limited kind of data, so the machine used to learn only within that data. So it might be that what kind of data, if it had not seen earlier, so it will give you very the output would be that it will not be that reliable as far as that particular application is concerned. So this is a paradigm. This is just a pyramid of a data science or an AI or a deep learning application, where you need to collect data, store it, and then clean it. So because there are some data which is irrelevant, so if there could be too many outliers which are not relevant, so you need to clean your data properly. Then you can do some kind of aggregation or labeling of that data and train your algorithms on those data, and then optimize your algorithms, and then you talk about the applications at the top level. So this is another application of where things are now moving, is a smart grid application, where you have smart meters that are being integrated into the smart cities, which basically are doing, but they are recording and uploading your electrical and background data at a centralized position. And there are they are basically based on sensors and IoT devices. So they are basically deployed in every electricity consumption unit, and then they share the information with the local control centers. So when you have that data, then you can decide what is the amount, what is the need or the demand of that particular area, and how much electricity demand is there, and then decisions can be done based on that. Another interesting applications of AI today is the humanoids. I mean, there are so many now robots coming up. The most popular one being, I think everyone must have seen her, is the Sophia. And she's able to simulate a wide range of facial expressions. And she just, looks also like human, and the way she conveys your answers, if you throw her any question, she will just respond like any other human being. And then and she learns and adapts from the interactions. That is, so constantly the program behind Sophia is constantly learning, trying to adapt to the environment outside. In fact, she had visited India also, and she is the first robot which was given a citizenship by Saudi Arabia. So she actually holds a passport, and she's a citizen of Saudi Arabia. So they are the these are the things that now we're going to look forward. Maybe when you travel next and someone is sitting beside you, a co-passenger, you will not be able to make out whether it's a robot or a human. So that is what the future is all about. So this is another very interesting example of a device which is known as a Modius headset. So what basically it does is it uses the neurotechnology to make weight loss also easier. So what it has is it just scans your shopping. Whenever you go out for a shopping, there are so many products which are showcased. So the person wearing that headset just has to scan through the products which are available. So automatically that device will calculate. When you focus on a particular product for a little while longer, it will pick up that information as far as the calorie counts is concerned and the pricing is concerned. And once you're done with the entire thing, so it will give you a total list of all the products that you wanted to select. It will give you the total calorie count and also the total amount. And it is already being used in quite a few places in US. So it was a MIT a project under which this device was developed. So ma'am already gave you an example of Amazon's Alexa, where you can give voice commands and it listens to you and then it will respond accordingly. And then you have other applications which are voice-based is, real-time translators. The apps are available where you can, speak in one language and that particular app will return in whatever language that you want to translate it to. So these things are now available. Translation is so much now easier to, use. Now, Alexa is basically, how does Alexa work? I mean, that device is such small. Do you think the entire computation of your voice is being done in that small device? No, it doesn't happen that way. So what AI does is, it has certain sensors to recognize the voice signals. And what it does is it analyzes according to its algorithm, do some context analysis. As to context analysis is nothing but it tries to just pick out the context of your question. I mean, one can ask one question in so many more ways. I mean, there are so many. What is the weather today? How is it going? How is the weather going to be? Is it going to be a sunny day or a cloudy day? What is the temperature going to be outside? A person can ask one question in so many ways. So how does Alexa get to know? So it does, the word breakup and tries to analyze the context of your question. So once it understands the context of the question, it will connect to the central server at some cloud location. It will pose that question and it will return the query that it poses, an answer is returned back from the server, and that is how it is able to speak out the answer. So that is the entire mechanism of how Amazon's Alexa is working. And it also, in that process, what it does is, once you pose a question, it is going to throw that question to the server, and it will be stored there for further analysis. I mean, constantly you are being, whatever your conversation with Alexa is, that is being stored so that further modifications in the algorithms, fine tuning and optimizations can be done. Then another interesting field of, where autonomous systems or smart systems is working towards is, as was mentioned earlier, is the driverless car. You have robots in the agriculture sector, which are automatically picking up, the ripe fruits or plants, whatever the fruits are or the vegetables are. So one does not need a manual labor to do those kind of things. Then in US, you have these smart autonomous systems for courier delivery that will come to your doorstep to deliver your couriers. Then you have a very smart bartenders also there, where the technology has taken over the bartender's job, where you have to give an order for a drink, and all the mixing and the cocktails and everything will be done by the robots, and your drink will be delivered. And then you have in the tourism industry, you have robots where you check into a hotel. You don't need people to carry your luggage to your rooms. You have robots where you place your luggage, and you just punch in the room, and it'll automatically take your luggage there. Then the drones are already being used in US to deliver your pizzas. And then you have very miniature versions of drones now coming up, which are almost like a honeybee. So what basically the purpose of these small drones or miniature drones is, they say that if honeybees vanish from the earth, there is not going to be any life on earth. So there are numerous studies are going on, and there is a total focus on not having such a scenario in the future where the population of honeybees goes down. So what they're doing is they are having these mini drones, like almost in that shape, using these for pollination purposes, or whatever the job of a honeybee is. They are exactly replicating that and trying to study the behavior of a honeybee and trying to replicate it inside a machine. And then you have so many much more intelligent, state-of-the-art, supercomputers on the back of Google's DeepMind, which created the AlphaGo, which was basically the first computer program to defeat a professional human Go player. Now, Go is a very famous Chinese, almost like a chess kind of game, and Google's DeepMind was the first program that was able to beat a professional player. So in virtual reality arena, how is AI being used? It is used for psychological therapy, where basically it is being used in US because most of their army or the soldiers have been going out to very difficult terrains and countries like Afghanistan, and the kind of impact those kind of postings have on the people when they come back is what is being done through these VR headsets. So they basically train them, try to assess the impact on what the person is going through. So VR is also used for safety training, like if you have some very critical machines and a critical mission that you want to use it. So first the training is done on a virtual reality. And VR is obviously used in the automobile industry for autonomous riding simulation kind of works. So AI, how can healthcare be left behind? So that there are numerous applications now of AI in health care. I think most recently what we have seen in this pandemic, where healthcare system came so much under pressure, and the infrastructure was really tested, and the kind of and how the vaccine rollout came out so quickly was because of behind the scenes a lot of AI applications were being used for vaccine rollout. And how does AI come into that picture is what the questions must be going in your mind is, because during a drug discovery or a vaccine, when they're rolling out a vaccine, what they do is they do a drug reappropriation. What it means is a drug meant for one purpose, can it be used for a different purpose? So using that ideology was what was behind all these vaccines that they came up. It was not that a new drug was discovered, it was drug reappropriation only. So if you delve into that and you search for it, you can really go down and understand the details of how the vaccines got rolled out so quickly, because you have huge amount of algorithms which were being tested, whether this particular drug can be used for this kind of protein, structure or not, whether it will be suitable or not. So those kind of entire chemistry analysis was done using these AI algorithms at the background. And then now you have so much more point of care devices also, your Google, the Apple Watches or Fitbits that you are using. They are gathering your health parameters and telling you so much more about your heart rate, your blood pressure, the amount of activity that you have done the entire day, or the amount of calories that you have burned. And you can even set your targets and things like that. And they are all connected at the back, and some of them are, and where they're using your data further to do further analysis. And then you have various apps also aligned to these devices. So although there are a number of advantages to this kind of, but there are certain I would say disadvantages in the terms of the privacy of a person that is being compromised at certain stages. Then you have applications where you would earlier need very invasive techniques to take out the blood, or other mechanisms to assess the health of a person. But now you have various non-invasive devices also, where the background is all AI applications. I mean, you have applications where you just need to plug in the device and automatically it's going to read your BP and other parameters. So how has that happened is, how is the calibration done on those devices is because of so much of more data which was done, which was used for learning and coming out with the these parameters, and what is the desired parameters and what the patient is currently showing. So coming to vision systems, that is another very interesting segment or a vertical of AI. Is recently IIT Madras offered an AI-based technology to help basically the army, which is deployed there in sensitive locations, to predict stone pelting. So they are basically doing nothing, but they're doing some crowd analytics. I mean, they can the cameras that are installed at various locations are able to detect people through object detection algorithms and come out with a certain number. So if it exceeds a certain threshold, and from their behavior also, from the actions that are also captured, like maybe the cameras are able to detect that a person is carrying something in his hand which looks like a stone or a brick. So they are able to detect and alert the personals which are deployed there that this is the situation which is going to be further. So Kumbh Mela uses crowd control, which is an AI-based application. So there are various gates. So once a particular section of people have already entered, and the people are going in a certain direction, and the other direction there are less number of people, so the gates are open. But when they sense that the crowd movement is too much, then the gates are closed, and that is how they are able to control the crowd. So surveillance is one big challenge in our times, current times today, because technology is so much ingrained in our systems, and the kind of scenario the world is facing right now. So you need proper surveillance. One example is everyone is aware of is the Balakot JEM strike, and how it was able to strike those camps was when they confirmed that there is an activity going on in that particular area. They could sense around 300 active mobile phones in a particular area. So what basically is done is an autonomous a flying machine basically goes and it hovers over a particular area or a cell tower, and from there they are able to make out the number of active cell phones going on, and the strength and the location and things are analyzed at the back end. And the future of warfare is here. Hyper warfare. I'm going to tell some AI interesting applications of what is being used in the Russia-Ukraine war at the moment. So all these headsets are equipped with state-of-the-art IoT devices, vision devices, sound devices, and a person is so much more connected to his entire environment that he's able to make out suspicious activities in any one of those buildings. He's able to make out if a shooter is placed somewhere, and then he can take appropriate actions. So AI has been on the front lines as far as the war in Ukraine is concerned. Russia has an intelligent drone which is known as Kamikaze. It has an autonomous capability called the Lancet, which it reportedly also used in Syria. So Lancet is nothing but is a loitering ammunition. Basically, it is nothing but it is just gathering intelligence and then designed to attack tanks and vehicle columns and troop concentrations in the war area. And once what happens is once it is launched, it basically circles a designated geographic area which is programmed into it until it is able to detect a target. So vision is what's basically is at the background. So how, and some kind of other sensing devices also, not only vision, there are other devices also which it is able to detect and come out with the entire demographics of that area. What is there, what is not there. The entire analysis is done in real time, and then it crashes itself into the target itself. So in that process, it just detonates the warhead that it was carrying. And in Ukraine itself is using a Clearview application, which is an AI facial recognition technology. It is basically nothing but because of so much of people suffering and the kind of death rate is there in the Ukraine war. So rather than doing a DNA kind of testing or matching fingerprints when you're not able to recognize the facial features of a person or not identify the bodies, in that case, the database happens is the Clearview matches the some aspects of the person and identifies the dead body. So now we've talked about number of applications of AI, but what do we need to come out with an AI application? We need basically what are the technology buzzwords or things that are aligned to an AI application. So first and foremost is you need to have knowledge and perception. That means without knowledge of the data that you are going to use, you cannot come out with a knowledge. So if you're going to work in a healthcare aspect, or you're going to read some MRI images or some brain scans, then you need to sit with the domain knowledge and understand the entire image of that particular MRI or a brain scan. So unless and until you do not have knowledge of that data, you will not be able to come out with the intelligent stuff. How are you going to read the data? That is what is very important. Then you can either go for machine learning or a deep learning, which is neural networks. Basically, deep learning is nothing but it is trying to mimic the behavior of human brain. Now, whenever action is to be performed by a human, there are certain neurons, a number of them, which are being fired across our brain. And using these neurons is they basically transfer their message from one neuron to the other because they're all linked. And then if you have to perform an action, say you have to lift your hand, that message is transferred to your hand through these neurons. So that is how the brain works. And this is basically mimicked inside your neural networks. And robots are basically applications where you can use this entire knowledge and use either neural networks or machine learning or natural language processing to come out with dedicated applications. Now, the objective of AI is, first and foremost, is we now understand, is to make the machine smarter. And in doing so, the purpose is to make them more useful. So, and before we do that, we need to understand how to make it more intelligent, how to gather data, how to read the data, how to gather the knowledge from the data. So it has to be, and any application of AI has to be authentic, it has to be assistive, and that means it has to be useful, and it is basically augmenting your routine works. And obviously there are certain applications which are there of AI. Another field which is related to AI is, now that we are moving forward, is the embedded AI. I mean, if you talk about Google Maps or other applications like EcoDot, or even the Google cars, the autonomous cars, was that the acquisition of data from the sensors was gathered at one point, and then it was pushed to a central server where the entire analysis was done, and the output was again fed back to the IoT device. The reason why that was because earlier the embedded devices had so much less computation power. They were big, and the memory constraint was obviously there. Now with the chip size reducing so much, and you have much more powerful microprocessors, microcontrollers now in place, so the AI applications have moved from cloud deployments to edge devices. So your entire AI algorithm or the model is embedded in those devices, and the analysis is done on that device itself. So the advantage of it is the turnaround time of you getting an output is now much more less than what it was earlier. So embedding intelligence is what now we're going forward to. You have a whole range of sensors, and they are not really to a cloud now. So the entire computation is being done at the edge itself. So that is what edge intelligence is all about. And some challenges of embedding an AI application at the edge is you understanding the resources are very limited, the cost is maybe a little high, and what kind of energy is going to be consumed, because your battery issues are obviously there. Now we know that once we have so many more apps, intelligent apps, which are all the time gathering our data in the background, our batteries drain so much more faster. But now you have fast charging systems also in place. So technology as such, you have a problem and then you obviously have a solution. So it goes like in circle, and that is how we are moving forward with in time. And there are so much more than now we can do. This is another interesting application of a wearable device for people who are blind or visually impaired, that reads the text, recognizes faces, it identifies products, and much more. So basically they are assistive devices for the differently abled people. So I'll just talk about briefly what we at CDAC Mohali have recently done during COVID times. We came out with a very interesting application of predicting from the cough sound of a patient whether he is a suspect COVID or is a COVID negative thing. So we built a machine learning model. We were capturing the cough signals of COVID positive people, and it was done 3 times the person had to lend his cuff signal to our system, and at the background we were capturing those cuff signals. The only challenge that we faced was the acquisition of data. I mean, you talk to a COVID patient, because especially during the Delta wave and the second wave that we saw, people would just resist. They were mentally also going through a lot at that time. So the challenge was how to ask them to lend their voices on a it was a portal that we made. It's still available. It's by the name of vaanimitra.in, vaanimitr.in. So if you want to, you can use it. Firstly, we rolled out only a data collection portal where since we did not have the knowledge of how to do the analysis of a cuff signal to detect whether it had certain COVID signatures or not. So we were only doing the data acquisition and the data collection part. And later on, once we had around 3,000 odd cuff samples with us, then we could analyze and come out with, using signal processing, we were able to extract features from a cuff signal, train our model, and then build a classifier which was going to predict whether you are COVID positive or COVID negative. So this was one application that we built on during the lockdown period, and it's still available. Now the challenge is since many of you don't know the kind of work that has gone into it. The simple reason being because it's available on a web portal. Now, not everyone wants to, log into an Internet Explorer or a Google Chrome and punch in vaanimitra.in and do that kind of detection, because we claim that this is not a replacement of RT-PCR. This is just, probability analysis of you being a suspect or, negative. I mean, we are not claiming that. And now what we plan to do is to embed the algorithm into an edge device, a dedicated device, a point of care system where maybe installed at public places where you just need to give your one cuff sample, and then it is able to give out, because temperature is not the sole criteria. I mean, temperature does not indicate that you have a COVID or not. So all those thermal screening was used and is being used across, but you can't make out. So cuff gives you a very good picture of the health of your lungs, and that was the entire idea behind using this application. And we just had one more session in audio forensics as well. So forensics is one where you need to have speaker identification and authentication applications, where AI applications are being used in a big way, and there are so many gray areas. So much more technology can do, because I was reading a research paper which said that MIT in US is working on in forensics, audio forensics, like for certain application where the video of two speakers is being recorded without the audio. I mean, you have certain applications like CCTV camera is one, where the audio signal is sometimes not there. You just have the video available with you. So how do you make out what the other person is saying? So what experiment they did was they kept a small polythene in the near vicinity of the two speakers, and they had a high resolution camera which was capturing the video. Now, what they noticed was when they analyzed those videos frame by frame, they could see certain vibrations in the polythene. Now, those vibrations were then translated into voice signal, and they were actually able to come out with one sentence what was said. So this was an amazing, application of, AI, what AI can do. And there is so much more. I mean, you students should just go explore. You pick up any field, agriculture, healthcare, where India is wanting to have, new innovative ideas to deal with what issues the country is currently facing at the ground level, and how AI can just help the farmer community and the rural areas in the health sector to, sometimes, or maybe, slightly make a change. So AI for social good is what I strongly believe in, that we must do, come out with technology which is helpful for the common man. And with that thought, I think I would like to end my session here. It's open for any questions one has. And just a piece of advice, that for people, or the engineers, or the young people who want to get into this area, is that there is so much more information available on YouTube. The courses are available. Um, what needs to be done is, you need to understand the data first. What I find with some students that we deal with is, they must just want to jump into, the coding part of the AI. They want to learn Python like anything. I mean, and they want to straight away, copy codes from this, there, and and come out with what has already been done, basically. So whenever you pick up any idea, or you want to explore whether this can be done, my advice was, just make your mathematics part, the analytics part, a little strong, so that you understand the statistics of data, so that you can extract meaningful information. So AI is nothing but, you need to understand the data and the patterns, or the trends of a data, to do the analysis. So my advice would be, make your statistics on a stronger side before you actually jump into learning coding and directly going into coming out with applications. So I would like to thank the organizers for the session, and thank you all the participants for patiently listening to the talk. It might have been, I don't know how relevant or not, or whether it had been of some interest to the audience. Do let me know in the chat box. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was really very informative talk, ma'am. You have really explained the different applications of AI in a very simple and interesting manner. I'm sure all the participants must have benefited with this talk. And now I ask the participant if there is any query or any question regarding AI. You can raise your hand. I will unmute you. And you can also share your question in the chat box. There is one question from Mr. Vishal.
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, आपका बहुत अच्छा लेक्चर था. बट मैम मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है, जैसे आपने पहले एक बताया एप्लीकेशंस के बारे में बताया कि जैसे ऑटोनोमस कार हैं, काफ़ी इसकी एप्लीकेशंस आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की है. तो कई बार मैम लेटेस्ट ट्रेंड में हमने देखा है, कई बार आर्टिफिशियल जो इनेबल्ड कार्स होती हैं उस पर एक्सीडेंट्स हो जाते हैं. तो उस केस में मैम वो टेक्नोलॉजी पे थॉरली डिपेंडेंट होना, ये सही बात है या नहीं सही बात है मैम? तो इसके अलावा दूसरी एक और चीज़ है मैम, एक और क्वेश्चन है मेरा, अगर उस पर भी आप थोड़ी सी लाइट डालें तो मुझे अच्छा लगेगा. मैम दूसरा क्वेश्चन है कि जैसे हम देख रहे हैं कि एडवांसमेंट हो रही है एआई में, तो विल इट इफेक्ट जॉब्स आल्सो, सिंस मैम अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट इज आल्सो अ बिग इशू. तो आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस से एक तो हम टेक्नोलॉजी के स्लेव बन जाएंगे. मेरा जो मानना है, या तो हम इस तरह को किस तरह हम डील करें, इस आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को किस तरह इम्प्लीमेंटेशन होनी चाहिए अकॉर्डिंग टू यू मैम?
May I know your background first?
Yes, ma'am. My background is, ma'am, I have done MTech in electronics and communication, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Are you currently working?
Yes, ma'am, I'm working.
Okay. So coming to your first question is about the autonomous systems, or whether we can fully rely on it. See, if the idea of Alan Turing had never been into picture, then we would never have, been able to advance in technology. I mean, it's like you have to go with the bad aspects of technology as well. I mean, you cannot entirely dependent. I agree with you. We cannot be dependent. There are certain limitations, and we should be fully aware. So one topic which I did not touch about in my presentation was we are moving towards explainable AI also now. What is explainable AI? Now, neural networks, although we didn't touch upon that topic, is basically a black box for most of us. I mean, we don't understand how the neurons are fired inside that neural network. So explainable AI is, it is able to explain to the user, and at the output, you understand how those neurons were fired and why were they done in such a fashion. So explainable AI is one big thing which is coming up now, and people are focusing on us because the output is not like, the machine thought it to be like this, and this is the output it is going to give. So how it computed and how it arrived at a particular decision is explained properly in explainable AI. So once you understand why it arrived at a particular decision, you can understand the machine and the limitations of that. That means it is not able to understand certain trends in your algorithm, and you need to work on it. So improvement will go on, and you will have applications and algorithms which will then try to delimit or do away with the error rate, and it'll basically reduce the error rate. So you cannot say that we are too dependent on it, and therefore the technology should not be used. I mean, technology is there, as I said, it is for social good. I mean, if technology had not been there, do you think we would have come out with the vaccines as happened now? So there are advantages and there are disadvantages, I mean, there are both aspects to it. And what was your second question? I missed out.
It is related to, ma'am, जैसे कि advancement of AI.
About the jobs. About the jobs. See, with automation, repeated tasks or the mundane tasks are being taken over by the machines. But the thought process, the creative fields, can you ask a machine, can you think of a machine which is able to, create a certain kind of, a picture or a paint like what humans can do? So those creative fields as of now cannot be replaced, although they are working on generative algorithms, which is able to generate different creative, music is one which is getting replaced now. You are able to generate music out of the pre-fed, sound recordings. So, so I would just say that technology is not there to take out jobs altogether. You would obviously need the human intervention, the human touch. I mean, you cannot replace a doctor. Come on. I mean, you need to visit a doctor. Do you think you would ever be comfortable visiting a robotic doctor than, the kind of the emotional connect that you have between a doctor and a patient that can never be replaced with a machine? So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
There is one question in the chat box from Manpreet. Are there any courses available for AI available in CDEC Mohali?
Are there any?
Any courses available for CDEC AI?
Yes, you need to go to our website cdac.in. It is a centralized website for all our CDAC centers, and we do come out with industrial training courses and short-term courses also. Summer training is one that is done every year, and it is due in I think June month for engineering students. So it's a 6-week program, and industrial training program for 6 months is also taken up. So you need to visit the website to see the schedule and the other aspects of trainings.
There is one more hand raised from Dhanvi.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening.
Ma'am, as you just explained about the internship program, ma'am, only BTech students are eligible for these kinds of internship, or biotechnology students can also pursue the same?
See, interns, we take it through our empaneled, recognized institutes. And there are certain divisions who look at MCA students as well, or BSc or MSc students. So you need to get in touch with our admission counselor to understand if you're eligible to be a part or as an intern. But we do take interns. We have certain MOUs with different institutes.
So I think that's all regarding the question. Now moving further, I request Dr. Rajesh Grover, Director of Science City, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ritesh, and good evening, everybody. And it's my pleasure to propose a vote of thanks at the occasion. We are really grateful to Ms. Sonia Dosanjh, Joint Director and Head of the Artificial Intelligence and Analytics Department at CDEC Mohali, for joining us to deliver an expert talk on emerging trends in artificial intelligence at the occasion of the celebration of this National Technology Day. Ma'am, you have really enlightened us on the latest developments in the field of artificial intelligence. And thank you for sparing your valuable time and interacting with our participants at the occasion. I express my gratitude to our worthy Director General, Dr. Neelima Jairath, for being with us and sharing her views at the occasion. I also take this opportunity to convey my sincere thanks to all my colleagues at Science City, especially Engineer Ritesh, for coordinating this event, and as well as our marketing team, Ms. Kanika and Ms. Manpreet Kaur, to make this event a success. I am thankful to all of them. And last but not the least, I'm also thankful to all our participants for joining us and interacting with our expert on this platform. In the end, I once again thank you all. Thank you very much.
There is one question from Anmol. Can we have the presentation presented by ma'am? I want to answer that. And the whole this session is available on PGSC YouTube channel. You can have that from the link. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. It was wonderful interacting, and good luck to all the students.
Thank you.
Thank you.